Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Tien and delighted to welcome you this morning to uh, Project Kin's Emma Explores. You see, I'm hesitating a bit because it's been so long. It's a delight to welcome Emma Cox back for this wonderful ongoing series, exploring the stories in Emma's own background and with all of the resources and background to teach us all how we can follow along in these journeys into genealogy. So, Emma, take it away.
Thank you very much for that, Barbara. I will just share my screen and get my presentation going. And I'm going to share my whole screen because I do want to go back and forth between a couple of different things today. I'll just make it full screen. I will move you all out the way and then I will start things going. So hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. It's been a couple of months, and the last time I actually did a talk, basically I was talking about the second anniversary. And I chose twos, people who were twos in the tree. And one or two people mentioned that I didn't include any women. So I thought I'd make up for it. And this one is all about women. So I have chosen two people in my tree who I wasn't really aware of before doing this presentation. And they are amazing women. I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this. Some of the things that they've done, they're still influential today. So without further ado, if anybody doesn't know me, my name is Emma Cox. I'm based in England. I help people find out about their ancestors, investigate DNA, all sorts of things to do with genealogy and family history. And I have my podcast, Journeys into Genealogy, with nearly 140 episodes on there so far. So today, influential women. Two women, definitely trailblazers in different ways. So they're different periods, they're related to each other, and I'm related to both of them. There was a woman called Nora, and she entered a man's world and fought for women's rights there and in many other places. So Nora was amazing. So she was British and American. And then we have a lady called Freya, and she was basically an explorer. And she went all over the place. She went to places like the Middle East and places that you would actually find difficulty getting to today. And she went there about 100 years ago. And the impact of what they did is still felt today. So this is Nora. Lovely picture of her on the right-hand side of the screen there. It looks like she's set for work. And she was born back in 1883 and she died in 1971. And she is my fourth cousin 3 times removed. And she was a civil engineer. And she was actually the first female civil engineer in America. So that is pretty significant. And also, she came from a very strong family of females, and her mother and her grandmother were both active in the suffragist movement about women's rights. She was born in England, so her father was English and her mother was American. And basically, she traveled between the two places. She was educated sometimes in America, sometimes in England. She was the first US woman to graduate with a civil engineering degree from Cornell University all the way back in 1905. The first woman as a civil engineer. Now, she tried to join the American Society of Civil Engineers, and basically they wouldn't have her because she was a woman. So she tried for a long time, and they basically said, you can be an associate member, but you can't be a full member. So she sued them and they didn't let her do it. And it's a decade or so later. And then after she died, she basically was created a fellow of the society. She was really, really intelligent. Apparently she was very athletic. She was very attractive. She was a very strong character. And she was very, very clever. So she took courses in electricity and mathematics, so that she could work as a laboratory assistant to Lee de Forest, who is a very famous person in his own right. So he helped invent wireless radio and everything. So they were married, but I don't think it was the happiest of marriages. Basically, I think she was a very strong character, and I think that he wanted a wife. And I don't think she was really a wife, if you want to say a homebody, that sort of thing. So she worked for her husband's company, they divorced, and she was given the choice, stay a wife or practice engineering, and she chose to practice engineering. And on the screen there, it shows that he blames her mother for the problems. So it said that the suit follows a suit for separation filed by Mrs. De Forest, the grounds not made public. De Forest declares Mrs. Blatch is responsible for his marital unhappiness and that she has prevented a reconciliation with his wife and has nullified all of his efforts to induce Mrs. De Forest to join him in California. Mrs. Blatch is president of the League for Self-Supporting Women, and Mrs. De Forest is a fully qualified hydraulic engineer. So she obviously decided that her career was more important to her than the man she was married to at the time. So they actually got divorced. And one of the things I do want to do in a moment or two is show you some of the different newspaper articles I've discovered about her. Because since doing this presentation, I had another look just before today, and I found loads and loads more articles. I'll share those with you in just a moment. So the other part of it was women's rights. So this is a picture of her on the right-hand side of the screen. And basically, she is, in 1908, part of the women's suffrage movement. And she worked closely with the National Women's Party. And she, through her entire life, worked towards women's rights and trying to create equal opportunities for women in technical professions. She actively participated in the Equal Rights Amendment movement and supported policies aimed at closing the gender wage gap. So what did she do for work? So she was an engineer herself. She was an architect. And basically, she started off as the draftsman for the New York City Board of Water Supply, developing the Catskill water supply system. And she was paid a lot of money for this, $1,200 a year, the highest salary for draftsman on the project. And it's believed that she did some work on the dams and weirs. So she basically divorced Lee De Forest, and a little bit later on, she married Morgan Barney, and he was I believe he was an architect himself, or a marine engineer, one or the other. And their daughter was also an archivist and architect rather, and a social activist, and both they worked together. So they did different projects together. And this is her building her own house. A permit for a single one-family unit was listed in last week's bulletin. It was issued to Nora Stanton Blatch, noted architect of Steamboat Road, Greenwich, for a $16,650 house to be constructed at Hawkwood Lane, Greenwich. Mrs. Barney is owner, builder, and architect. The house will contain 9 rooms, 3 baths, and will have an attached garage. So she's building her own property. And she continued to work for equal rights and for world peace throughout her life. And in 1994, authored World Peace Through a People's Parliament. And a real estate developer and a political activist. And she died in Greenwich in 1971. And she's actually buried, I'm just going to move you out the way, in the Bronx in New York. And one of the other things about her is because she did a lot with tunnels and dams, weirs, that sort of thing, they named a machine after her. So Nora is the tunnel boring machine, which was used in New York. And there's lots and lots of pictures here. And so there's articles. I'll just show you one or two of these. So this is Nora being put into position. And someone else has got pictures on here. And this is showing some of the projects that she actually worked on. And so you can see the whole of the machine there. And this is them naming it after her. So Cornell, the university. Now, whilst I'm on this screen, I just wanted to share a couple of other things with you. So this is my, first of all, let's start with, sorry, go back to this one here. This is my ancestry tree, which has got Nora on here. So let's just find her profile. And I've got lots and lots of information about her, but it's brought up loads and loads more hints. And these are basically all newspaper articles, all sorts of different articles. You can see there's several on the screen there. And they're all different things here. So basically it says that these because she was so unique, they reported on this everywhere, all across America. Lots of different newspapers basically put her in them. So this is the Wilmar Weekly Tribune from Wilmar in Minnesota in 1903, saying that she's going to take a course and that she took her place at one of the college blacksmith's 20 forges. So she actually physically did the work herself. Another one here, this is saying that she's leader and champion of the 600 women students at Cornell, the handsome, athletic and gifted granddaughter of the famous champion of women, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, is to graduate this year. She's the only woman who's ever finished the course. She's extremely athletic, having swum Cayuga Lake, nearly 3 miles wide. The young lady is one of the best students in her class and stands up valiantly for equal rights and opportunity for the feminine sex. So that was from Astoria in Oregon in 1905. And then this one is the Daily Telegram in Clarksburg, West Virginia. I'm not going to read all of them, but it says she's an unusually pretty young woman, athletic, active, and fond of outdoor life. She distinguished herself years ago while a senior at Cornell by swimming Cayuga Lake a distance of 2.5 miles. The feat was an easy one for her, and her friends declared at the time she could have swum the entire distance back. Boston Globe, and basically it says she's done the same thing there. And then this one is this is in Dublin in Ireland. So you can see all of these different things for her, and there's more Tennessee, South Dakota, Kansas, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Newark. And so she made the papers everywhere. So this is basically about her divorce. So she was news through her entire life here. So this is basically saying she applied for alimony pending her suit for separation from Leda Forest. So lots and lots of different newspaper articles all about her then. So I'm just going to flip back to the presentation here and talk about her legacy and her impact. So her work helped pave the way for future generations for women in STEM. So that's, if I remember this right, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is STEM fields. Although her rejection from the American Society of Civil Engineers symbolized the systemic barriers faced by women in engineering, her advocacy and perseverance contributed to the gradual inclusion of women in professional engineering organizations. And I'm just going to show you one other thing whilst I'm doing this, because I thought it was interesting. Hang on a moment. So even when she'd graduated, this is her graduate entry here. Can you see it on the screen? C. Barney, Mrs. Morgan. She's known as Mrs. She's not Mrs. Morgan. She's Mrs. Husband. She's not given her own name as part of it. So she inspired many later movements for gender equality in the workplace. Today, she's recognized as a trailblazer who helped dismantle gender barriers in engineering and beyond. And the legacy is reflected in the increasing number of women. And in 2015, they posthumously recognized her contributions. And she's still discussed today. If you look her up, there are so many websites all about her, about engineering, about women's rights, all sorts of different things. And some of the different websites. So she's got her own Wikipedia page, the Institute of Civil Engineering, then it goes on and on and on. Those are just some of them. I could have put loads more. Those are just a small one there. So websites about her and her family. So I mentioned that she and her grandmother were also very active in women's rights and everything. So Harriet Stanton Blatch, daughter of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, 3 generations of strong, intellectual and capable businesswomen. And then, so there's an article all about her mother, Harriet Stanton. And then it talks here about Harriet Stanton Blatch and her history and everything. So basically, there's lots and lots of information on there if anyone wants to read that one. And Barbara will share the slides afterwards so you can see that. And then there's also her grandmother. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she has her own Wikipedia page as well. So please do look those people up because they are amazing women. I was quite pleased doing this one because I just thought this is just makes you feel good talking about all of this stuff. And she's a woman who really made a difference. And I can't remember exactly, she's something like, she's my fourth cousin 3 times removed. So it's not a close relationship, but we don't share blood, but we sort of come from the same background many, many years ago. And there's quite a good website, that last link on the page there, Suffragists in Greenwich, talks about all 3 generations there. Second person I'm going to talk about, her name is Freya Stark. So she was born in 1893 and she died in 1993. So she lived to 100. So she is the third cousin once removed of Nora, and she's third cousin 3 times removed to me. So we're sort of like in a bit of a triangle, if you think about it. So she was born in Paris. So we've got an English woman born in Paris to bohemian, poor and ill-matched parents, unfortunately. Father was British, her mother Italian of Polish-German descent. She lived in Italy, and the family had a textile mill there. And unfortunately, I believe her hair or her scarf or something got caught in it. And so she ended up being quite badly injured all around her hair. And she ended up always wearing her hair to cover it in later life. That didn't stop her from getting an education and to going out and exploring the world, though. So she went to the University of London and studied Persian and Arabic. And again, in those days, that was very unusual. She was very tall, 5'1", 1.46 meters tall, and rather eccentric. I love this, appearing in the London season in 1938-9 with a lizard draped around her neck. Can you imagine that? Going out and actually having a lizard draped around your neck. Different, I think, is one way of describing that. And this is her in her exploring days. So she's wearing typical Arab garb for going out in the hot and dusty climate of the Middle East. Again, she's a trailblazer, and she lived in lots of different countries before she started going exploring on her own. She went to Paris, England, the countryside, London, and northern Italy, all before the age of 10. And then she went, when she was an adult, places in Turkey in the Middle East. And she basically explored all over the place around there. And she, as far as I'm aware, she didn't really have problems. I haven't read her books. Excuse me, she wrote several books which talked about her exploration in different places that she'd been to. And I'll mention where they are later. So some of the countries she went to, the Middle East, Turkey, Yemen, Afghanistan, India, Egypt, Persia, now Iran, Kurdistan, and Italy. So that is quite a wide variety of different places, but equally it's all places that, apart from Italy, that the travel is not necessarily easy or necessarily safe. And this is her in later life. So you can see she has her face, and her hair is covering her face where she had the scar. And that's her at her typewriter at her desk, actually doing some of her writing. That's a lovely photograph. So she had 12 books that she wrote, and the books that she wrote were sort of her travels, local history, culture, everyday life of the places that she actually went to. She was very clever, spoke French, German, and Italian. And the first book was called The Valley of the Assassins in 1934. And she basically gave people travel tips and talked about what happened in the different places, the customs, the history, what people could expect if they ever tried to go there. I'm not sure how many people would have followed her. It was quite unusual. And there are various other books, Beyond Euphrates, The Southern Gates of Arabia, Letters from Syria, Alexander's Path, The Minaret of Jam, and various other ones. So she wrote over a long period of time, so 1928 to 1970, so pretty much 45, 50 years of actually writing books. And again, if you put her into the internet and actually search for her, you'll come up with loads and loads of different websites and things about her. So this is basically The Passionate Nomad. This is about her life here, written by a lady called Jane Fletcher, and I can't remember what her last name is there, Genius. And she was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1972. And she lived to be 100 years old. So that's a pretty good year, pretty good age. So people actually wrote books about her as well. Women of the World, The Rise of the Female Diplomat, Passionate Nomad, The Life of Freya Stark. And then again, she has got her own Wikipedia page. And there's a collection of her photographs in the archives of Harvard. And these are sort of some of the ones that she took. There's a little bit more about there, and you can actually see the inventory. Oh, so there's 18 prints there. And I think you would probably actually have to go to Harvard to actually look at those particular ones there. And then there's another site here, laterbloomer.com. And this is a reference to various different things and talking about her and her background. Civilservant.org.uk, and basically talks about her on there. And because she went to unusual places, I think that she did actually sort of report back to the British government in some places to actually sort of say what the conditions were like. She did act as a diplomat. And there's a podcast where somebody's done an episode about her, the Explorers podcast. There's actually more than one episode there. There's 6 ones there, and talking about some of the different journeys that she went on. So her journey through northern Persia, Luristan, which is Baghdad, so that's Iran to Baghdad, into the Yemen, and various different articles about her. And this one as well, Love Her Wild, Rise of the Female Adventurer. So she's sitting in her hammock, and then I think that's a great photograph. So it's like her travels took her to all areas of the Middle East, and all possible situations were encountered. My favourite being when she turned up to a post office in Hamadan, Iran, her last stop before going off to hopefully discover the land of the famous assassins. She was intending to pick up some money which should have been waiting there. When it wasn't, and she realised she only had £2 with her, she didn't wait in town or try to figure out the situation. She didn't turn her back and return to Baghdad, where a nice apartment and many friends awaited her. Instead, she talked her way into a car heading in the right direction, was wise with her last £2, and spent 2 weeks exploring the Alamut Mountains as planned. There's some fascinating stories about her and her adventures here. And she carried on doing it until she was 77, traveling until she was 77. I think she's amazing. I think they're both amazing women. So in terms of what I found for my research, Wikipedia, the British Newspaper Archive, and also newspapers.com, Hudson Valley, civil engineering, and all the other ones previously mentioned. So that's it. Any questions?
I do.
Okay.
This was delightful. I couldn't help but wonder. You stopped in both cases at the mothers. It's always the mother.
The
And in the
inspiration.
well, and permission too, right? Because in both cases they had women who could have in their generations have been accused of being uppity, right? I mean, women who were not taking no for an answer, women who were stepping out of the expected bounds. And did either one of them have children?
Nora did. So Nora
Oh,
had
that's right, a
2
daughter.
children. She had a son and a daughter. So the
Now I
daughter was
want to
also
know
an
about.
architect.
That's right. I want to know about that daughter.
Yeah. She's there. If you look at the last
Yeah,
link on the page where I talk about all the links on there, that's got the 3 generations, because her daughter, or her
the
granddaughter
suffragists.
even now, has
Uh-huh.
basically done some more research and Let's just find,
That's
I'll find
the
that one.
greenwichhistory.org. I
Yeah.
have the slides. um, so yeah. And to hear women in the early 20th century protesting for things like closing the wage gap and the right to vote, it's still staggering that we're still arguing the wage gap. And yeah, her journey in engineering. Interestingly, there are fields like computing, which were all women, as was cryptography and a lot of fields like that that were largely driven by women until they became high status jobs.
Mm.
And as status shifts and women move into better than they were otherwise getting wages. Not to be standing on a soapbox making a pitch, but
It's amazing. And
yes,
it
amazing
says that
women.
her mother, basically, I think this is right, 4 generations of Stanton women, beginning with Elizabeth Cady Stanton's daughter, Harriet Stanton Blatch, lived all a part of their lives in Greenwich. She had a degree in maths from Vassar. Again, that's not that common for those days. She was born in 1856. She founded the Women's Political Union. I will actually just share my screen again so you can see it, because there's a lovely photograph. Can you see that photograph?
Uh-huh.
So that's Nora Stanton Blatch as a child with her mother and grandmother.
Wow, that's what I mean, man.
And then her granddaughter, or her Nora's daughter Rhoda, and then her granddaughter Colleen. So it's 4 generations of women. I think
Wow.
that photograph's amazing.
My great grandfather moved from that area of New York to Kansas, raised three daughters, and all three of them went to college at about the same, a little bit later, about the same period of time. The eldest graduated from college in 1914, I think. No, 1912. And all three daughters graduated from college. In fact, it's my college ring, my grandmother's college ring. Uh, and the youngest, I must have graduated in the late 20s from Smith. And the same kind of thing. That was an elite group of women. And I was thinking about that just recently in the context of, um, uh, well, modern sexism and an earlier generation to me who were just about 10 years older than me, who were among the first wave to be graduating from these previously all male universities that first started allowing women. Um, yeah, it's
We
kind
owe
of
it to
amazing.
people like her who started
Yes.
it off, don't we?
Yeah, and to think about what they went through. Maria Montessori was about the
Mm.
same period of time. She was a doctor and she was able to get her medical degree, but she couldn't practice anywhere, which is why she ended up in an institution for, I think, orphan children. Is that right? And a similar sort of thing. And look at the contributions that she made to education. Wow.
And I like the
It's
boring machine.
remarkable.
Oh, I
It's just,
know.
it's just remarkable, isn't it? Way back then. I,
Mm.
I mean, you think Canada was barely um, alive back then. I mean, the prairies,
Yeah.
right? For people going to university and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the question. So she was one of the first women to graduate, but is there anything about how difficult it was for her to get into the program? Because in many cases, women weren't even allowed into
Yeah.
these
Yes.
types of programs in the first
Great
place. They weren't
question.
accepted.
I think
And
there
how
probably
many who
is.
entered actually graduated? Excuse
Yeah.
me, Emma, go ahead.
I don't think there were any other women on her course. I think she was literally the only woman on her course. And I think she had to fight for it. But
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know much more.
yeah. It's just fascinating to see. And as you said, she wasn't accepted, but she was accepted in the workplace. So she was able to shine in the many things that she did in the workplace. And that's another area where many women were not, given the jobs or given the opportunities or those sorts of things. It's quite amazing that she's done that.
And I think it's because she came from a line of very strong women who didn't give up. They tried, and if it didn't work, they tried again, or they tried something different, and she just carried on. And
Yeah, yeah, that's it's amazing. I also have a strong ancestor who I am currently writing about. My grandmother, who won a commander of the Order of the British Empire for the work she did during the First World War. And there's no Wikipedia page on her. There's nothing anywhere.
Not yet.
Yet. I will. Um, but just starting to look at like her anger over what she was paid versus what a man would be paid, and a variety of different things like that. So, um, about roughly about the same age. So she was born in 1880 in Fiji, grew up in New Zealand, and then worked in England. So, but just seeing it through the ages, and again, we're seeing it come back through the whole thing. So I came from the computer industry, and when I started university in astronomy, I was one of three women and 297 guys who were in the program. So I mean, many, many, many years it hasn't changed, and yet Nora accomplished so much in the time that she lived. It's quite incredible. And of course,
she's still
Freya,
influencing things today. People
yeah,
still reference her. There's still many websites all about her, and people sort of talk about anniversaries and different things. So she's not forgotten by any means.
and
What
that's incredible in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about equal rights and opportunity and all those kinds of things, in many ways, these women were so extraordinary. They were doing everything backwards and in high heels, so to speak. Um, the Ginger Rogers statement, if she did everything front, yeah. But thinking back, really, this fight is for ordinary women. It's for ordinary people who aren't extraordinary. And how many extraordinary women were spilled over, lost, and never got these opportunities because they didn't happen to also have extraordinary parents and even grandparents. I'm reading about Margaret Cady, who was going back 2 generations to that. Just breathtaking of what these women were capable of doing in the circumstances and moment in history and time and place. Anne and I in the tech space, we have lived through in our business lives this explosion of opportunity and people in the right place at the right time to do extraordinary things. Yeah, they're amazing people, but there was also a lot of just in the right place at the right time. Um, Boy.
Has become a little bit more democratic, I think, nowadays. It's like there is more merit based. It's like if you're
No,
good at
it's getting
things,
worse.
do you think?
Yeah, just take a look at what's happening in some countries about their attitudes towards women in
Yeah.
STEM, attitudes towards women in science, attitudes. They are deliberately erasing women in history. And fortunately, people are saving the knowledge about those women. So I think I had more opportunities in the early 80s in technology than my nieces, grandnieces, and nephews, have now in technology. They don't have the same opportunities or respect. I mean, it's going backwards. It's um, in
Why
time.
is that?
You might want to stop recording for that one.
We see you out there.
Yeah, but it is extraordinary in Nora in the sense, all the thing that she did and having the digger named after her and she is still referenced today. That is extraordinary. And then Freya, who was a traveler. I mean, you talk about women traveling on their own in those days. It just was unheard of. And then writing about it and things like that. They're both incredibly strong women to have in your line.
But to
I think
the
it's amazing when you start looking in your tree who you discover. So I had no idea before I started looking into this that these women existed and what they'd done. And it's like, oh, who are they? And then you start looking, oh, they did that, really?
Wow.
And it's like, so when you think about it, a lot of these people, they might be known, but they're known in very narrow spaces, as it were. They're known in a particular industry, or they're known in a particular country or something like that. At least they are remembered. But there must be others who've done things maybe as good, maybe better, maybe not quite as good, but whatever, but have done things that are worth remembering, but we just haven't discovered them yet.
Yeah, we forgot them.
We didn't know about them, or previous
We didn't
generations
know
forgot
about
them, and
them,
we
but
haven't found them. Yeah.
our past generations forgot about them.
and when you look back into early history, there were so many in the grand scheme of things, you look at inventions that were invented in the Renaissance that actually had been invented way earlier, but forgotten in history. The forgetting in history does have an impact, a larger impact. And the ways in which we can keep these stories that are even personal to us because we knew what they did, we knew who they were, I think has the potential to help the next generations come along and investigate them, perhaps just because they were family, but then be inspired to go do something beyond that. And from my experience in tech, and I don't disagree, there's like a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. I had an experience recently, the details of which don't matter, but it was one of those queen bee moments in the, I'd say, early 80s. We used to talk, I see you got it. We used to talk about how there's one woman in the room in the big conference room, and there's one woman in the room, and the second woman comes in and she's nasty as heck. Why? Because there can only be one woman in the room. Only one woman's allowed. So she's going to push you out. That was the tension. And I was thinking about even politics, some of the snarky things that we've heard older women politicians say. And younger women are like, where did that come from? And I'm like, oh, I recognize it. I recognize it. And it was an earlier generation of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And I bring that up actually as a point of hope from the perspective of, yes, we're feeling the pressure, but that doesn't mean we give up. We keep pushing forward because that is actually how that first step to be gained is hard work. I'm still bitter about the failure of the ERA in 1979 because I thought we were done. I was like 16 and I was like, no.
Yeah. But I think if we discover, as Emma has done, these women and then start to share the stories about them, it does help today's younger women and even ourselves to feel that hope, to feel proud, to feel that this has been done and I or you or somebody else can do something as well and just take the world forward.
And just to
And also,
reinforce that,
on top of that, yeah, just to celebrate them.
Yes,
I was just going to reinforce that with the feedback that you got, Emma, when you were talking about twos and you didn't happen to mention women. And somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, wait a minute, or maybe multiple people. And yeah, it's worth doing that for that kind of reason, because then we have this additional conversation, which is a whole new set of discoveries that you otherwise wouldn't have made. Not that you didn't appreciate the women in your tree by any means, but it wouldn't have driven this kind of focus to it. And the same can be true for any number of characteristics of different kinds of people. But it is here goes. It's the appreciation of themes, of looking at the same base of data lots of different ways to be able to appreciate that context. In this context is that, as all of us women here in the audience today, appreciate the personal experiences, lived experiences that we have had in our own histories, I understand and appreciate at least at a level, what they might have appreciated. Slicing it different ways would bring even more information forward. So that's two ways to look at it. One is thematically, and two is just
I would
specifically
love to
women.
hear if somebody's got one woman in their tree, from anybody who watches this afterwards. Feel free to contact me. The details would come through Barbara, come to me directly, whatever you want to do. Find a woman in your tree that you didn't know about before who's done something amazing.
Oh, oh, the gauntlet is down.
Have you found
That could
any
be
for
another
me?
theme for 27.
Emma, have you found any in mine that have done any?
Well, do you know, amazing can mean all sorts of different things. Amazing can mean taking a risk and moving to a different country. Amazing can mean doing something different. It doesn't have to be that you changed the world. It doesn't have to be that you were really famous. It doesn't have to mean that you had massive influence. It could be something relatively small. So it could be one of your ancestors who came across one of your great grandmothers, Linda, or your grandmothers. I don't know. I have to have a look and see.
Well, I think they were pretty brave to come across the ocean myself, right? Yeah,
Can you imagine that? The actual idea of crossing an ocean on a ship
yeah,
for weeks,
no,
however long it took, and
yeah,
not knowing what would happen at the other end. That's so brave to do that.
yeah, yeah,
I yeah,
yeah,
Leaving everything
I put my
behind.
own mom in that one, actually.
yeah.
You know, and where did she, and yeah, I'm still processing that a little bit.
Yeah, because you traveled all over, right? With your mom.
It
Yeah.
was a well, it was a you know, what are the motivations for people to move? I am obsessed right now, forgive me, but on the whole subject of migrations or movement. And you happen to mention, you know, move to another country. Like, what? How many? And you know this, Anne, from your experience as well, in terms of that. Let's get out of here. And I think the motivations are really some of the most interesting elements. In this case, it was a personal thing and a divorce and a messy experience and all of those kinds of things. And it's still only one generation away, so it's a little bit delicate. But I think going back two generations and more, looking at those kinds of motivations that would lead somebody to go. I mean, my great aunt's husband packed off from Colorado to go to South Africa in the early 1930s, to work as a rancher, to teach how to build a ranch. And then the children were all born there, and then they came back to the United States because, you know, it was getting dicey, as they say, 1938, crossing the Atlantic. So they went to Brazil first. There's some fun stories in there.
There's a couple of different things. So Jude said amazing can be being penniless, widowed, and still inspiring their children. So there's all sorts of different
Yes.
things about amazing there. But Jude is doing a talk, because I know this because I interviewed her about it yesterday, for All About That Place, which is about occupations and movement and things like that. So do take a look at that. I think it's can you remind me which day you're on, Jude? I can't remember offhand. But that's the sort of the push pull of movement. What's inspiring you to go? What's pushing you? So she's on the 13th of October, her talk, and I know it's 11 o'clock UK time because I do remember that. But that's on the day about changing places. But so to just think about, well, what did inspire somebody to move? Were they going towards something where they thought there was a new job they were going to, or were they trying to escape something? There's all sorts of different things. But have a look at her talk and find out more about that one.
Just to underscore the point about women taking these remarkable steps, you know, sometimes, as you say, penniless or bad marriages or abusive experiences or trauma like rape and other kinds of things will be a reason to, it's survival. You know, it's getting away from something, but it's often survival. That'll force that kind of change. And yeah, those are stories that are not told. that are, don't come out, and then are they believed? Oh, it's a reminder why these stories are so important to be told, even if they're not told in public.
And that's the thing. It's like you may have a story that you find that you don't want to share. By all means, but have a look at your tree. See if you can find somebody who inspires you in some way.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Jude pops up here with modern day stories continue with the women campaigning against rape, abuse, and so on. And not only is it the case that individuals are leaving because of these reasons, but also those who campaign against them put themselves in danger just by talking about it. And that, to Anne's earlier point, is another reason why I think that in today's hyper-connected, communicated world, that oftentimes people feel less secure to be able to speak, less secure to be confident to campaign against these kinds of encroachments. All the more reason to work at this. And the bravery for putting yourself out there, putting out those stories, and to seek the protection to do that. And just to say, always happy to help in any way, from a technical perspective anyway, to ways to do that are keep things private, maintain anonymity, or other kinds of things to make sure that communications can happen. And sometimes the privacy needs to wait a generation to be able to have those lessons get shared. Wow. Where are soapboxes? Thank you so much, Emma. This has been a wonderful program. And I think, we're right up there on an opportunity to be making differences in getting the world across. And it's kind of speaks to the mission of why we are doing what we're doing. And welcome back. We've missed you. And it's wonderful to have you back. And I was just looking at the stats from last programs. People have been missing you. They're back watching old reruns.
Well, there are a few of them archive. Now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Here we are at 2 years and one more session. So we are continuing to build on this and look forward to future years and expanding on these kinds of stories and forms of encouragement to keep going. Sorry, those cats have been active.
And so next time, before we finish, it's on the 17th of September, and I'm going to be talking about alliteration here. The Fox family of Falmouth.
We're going to make you say that a lot.
And they were really interesting, actually, because there were strong women in this one as well. Apparently, there were 2 teenage sisters who set up the first polytechnic in England down there. And I didn't know that before I looked into this. And they're a Quaker family, and there's also connection with lots of gardens down there, some quite big gardens and everything. So it should be quite an interesting talk, that one.
Wow. That Fox family of Quakers?
Yes.
Wow.
A branch of that Fox family. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. In fact, I wonder if we should start paying attention to the all of the places and regions that we could build a map of all of the places that you have referenced in your stories, because all of those people in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States can perk up and say, oh, I have ancestors from there too.
Yeah,
not a crazy idea.
No.
Yeah, if you want to toss me all of the shires and counties and towns and cities, I'll put something together. I'm into my maps now.
Okay, I'll have to think about that. I have to think about how to find it all. Yes. The different families and everything. Yeah.
I know. Just you had me at Fox family of Falmouth.
Is it F-O-X or F-O-X?
It is.
Oh, just F-O-X. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, that Fox family. Yeah. All righty. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.